All right, we are live. That is right. Into the Lab traditional edition is what I'm going to call this. That's right. I am your host, Ernest Silva, back in the San Antonio studio. The Into the Lab podcast is coming at you. Season 3, Episode 1, premiere episode of the season. We are excited. It's going to be a short one. We're going to talk some NFL news. We're going to talk some top 10 fantasy wide receiver lists. You may recognize one, but you may not recognize other. That's because we got a debut episode for Justin here, and we're going to introduce him right now. Announcer, why don't you bring us in right? If you heard that magical voice in the sky, that's you need to go get your mind checked because he does not exist. That's only for our podcast listeners. But we will say this: we have Steve, the General Reisner, my co-host here with us, co-owner of Blue Collar Media Group. Steve, how's it going, bud?
Well, we're doing all right. My voice is coming back a little bit since the Hoopathon on Saturday. Not fully. I can't quite yell at everyone yet, but we're getting back. We're almost there.
Well, that's definitely good. I know you had a lot of trouble Saturday forward even talking, but I'm glad you're here with us today. Let's not forget our special guest today, talking fantasy football wide receivers. Right, Justin Bruni. How's it going, Justin? Is it at to the hizzy? Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, that's
right.
us on Twitter at To The Hizzy. Take it to the Hizzy Fantasy Sports. I'm a host and a podcast writer for the pod, so we have a lot of fun talking ball. Really appreciate you guys having me on tonight.
Very excited to have you on and talk some fantasy football. We are going to talk top 10 wide receivers. That's the feature for tonight. We're also going to dive right in to our headlines and kind of dissect what this means fantasy-wise for a couple of players and a couple of teams as we're going into the biggest draft weekend of the season, right? This is the weekend that everybody is trying to figure out where are my gems, where are my sleepers, and maybe we might have a couple of those in there for you as we're going through our top 10 lists. Justin, you sent me top 100, so I'm definitely going to ask you about sleepers. You've done your homework on this, so we're going to dive into that big list definitely during tonight's show. You know what? You know what it is, guys. This is sponsored and brought to you by the mothership Blue Collar Media Group. That is correct, Blue Collar Media Group. So we are excited to announce that the retreat was a huge success this weekend. Over $6,300 donated to Triple Double Basketball Academy on that 1 hour and 15-minute event. It's all thanks to our Lapsters and our listeners and everybody everywhere. So thank you to everybody. Harlingen, you were fantastic. Brownsville, you were fantastic. Let's jump into tonight's episode. That's right. Let's hear the bell and let's get started for round number 1. That's the bell. And if you heard a bell, I seriously hope you're going to go get checked because that's only for our podcast listeners. There is no bell on this show. But let's start off with some of the big news. Sony Michelle has been traded to the Rams for 2 conditional picks. I'm going to start this one off with Steve and then go to Justin. Steve, what does this mean for people looking at Sony Michelle? And why are they trading?
Well, for one, Sony Michelle's fantasy stock just skyrocketed. He's obviously going to be the featured back. He's going to be the workhorse back for the Rams. He wasn't going to be that here. The Patriots got rid of a guy like Sony Michelle and still have one of the deeper backfields in the NFL, it looks like. He was going to be splitting carries with White and Harris, and the way the preseason has looked, probably even J.J. Taylor and Ramondre Stevenson. So I think this is I think it's a good trade for all sides.
Now I have to ask you, Steve, and I'm going to go to Justin next. But do you believe he's the starter in Los Angeles right away? That's to you, Steve.
Yeah. I think he'll end up being the primary back pretty much right away.
Awesome. Justin, what does Sony Michelle do for you on your radar when we talk fantasy?
I think you definitely have to move him up your draft boards a little bit. I'd probably move him from somewhere like in the, maybe like in the mid 60s for running backs, like probably up to like the low 50s, because I think it's going to be, a dual backfield between Henderson and Sony Michelle. Obviously, Henderson's going to have the leverage on the playbook and the understanding of the offense. He's been there for a few years now. So I still see him as the more valuable piece. I really don't adjust him any. I don't move him up. I don't move him down. I'm just moving up Sony Michelle. Right now, you can get, Darrell Henderson in like the 4th or 5th round, kind of depending on, your league format, if you're doing super flex or single quarterback, whatever it is. So you can still get him for some decent value. I wouldn't necessarily try to grab him, multiple rounds back than what he's getting drafted at right now, because you'll probably run the risk of missing out on him if you do want a piece. But Sony Michelle, it's a good fit for him. I think a lot of people were getting excited about the prospects of Jake Funk, Xavier Jones, but clearly the Rams wanted a bigger piece, a more reliable and experienced running back. So I think it is a good move for both sides. You flip over to the Patriots side of the deal, and where you had a lot of crowded backfield and a lot of questions about where the touches were going to be distributed. Now you kind of have just Damien Harris, I think, as that lead guy, Ramondre Stevenson kind of as that powerful punisher and finisher in between the tackles, and James White is a solidified third down back. So I think they have their guys that they need for their appropriate roles, and they probably just had one too many guys. So you get a couple of picks back. The room gets a little bit more solidified. Everybody knows their roles. And even if one of those guys were to go down with an injury, you still have a solid amount of depth there.
Now, when you look at the situation in New England, obviously it is Damien Harris, right? And for you guys, at least for me, Damien Harris then skyrockets up my board a little bit more. I shouldn't just combine skyrocket and a little bit, but let's just say he moves up my board more because I was worried about that Sony Michelle effect, right? He has those 2 or 3 games where he goes off for like 3 touchdowns, and you're like, gosh, you end up holding a Damien Harris for 3.7 points, right? So for you guys, obviously all camp has been Damien Harris is a New England guy. Steve, confirm for us. I mean, is this a 3-down back?
I mean, I think he is, but I think you have to remember that the Patriots have almost always gone running back by committee, save for like the Corey Dillon era, really. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much Harris's backfield. Of course, James White is going to get his touches. James White he's going to be out there for the screens, and like Justin said, on third down. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like I said, if we see a little bit of J.J. Taylor out there doing kind of feeling like that old Dion Lewis role. And I wouldn't be surprised at the way Ramondre Stevenson is running. I would not be surprised at all if that kid gets some chances. Belichick likes to throw a lot of things at you, see what works out. But Harris is a workhorse, and he proved that last year. And I do think he'll be pretty much the primary back, but it is a running back by committee.
And surprisingly, it's not like a group of 4 experienced backs. That's usually what you have back there, right? You have 4 guys that have kind of played the game for a while, and this time you have 2 kind of unprovens and Damien Harris. Like, that's the guy. So it's a little different for me. Justin, for you, where do you have Damien after this? I know we're talking wide receivers, but if you had to show some love here in the running back area, where do you have Damien now?
Probably in the late 20s, probably like 28 through 32 or somewhere in that range. I don't think anyone wants to go out and try to target any one of these running backs. If you can let one of these guys fall to you in a decent spot where you're not taking them as a starter, maybe as one of your bench players or your flex spots. Certainly in like 12-team like single quarterback leagues, you're not going to be like diving to him anytime soon, right? And that's where he would hold more value, where you have less super flex spots or whatever it is. I still see it as a committee, like you mentioned. Stevenson's going to steal touches in the red zone. Dame Harris does seem like the guy that you would want there, but I don't want to reach for him. I don't really want to risk it as like my RB2, or realistically even as a starter in my flex position. Like if I can stash him on my bench, I'm going to be feeling pretty good. I don't think that you want to rely on any one New England running back any week as a starter in fantasy. It's just a nice little piece you can add on your bench. You can go off in a bye week, or somebody that you get late that just goes off. Like maybe James White becomes super productive in fantasy because he gets a handful more of opportunities.
Right.
Well, it's like I've never wanted to take Patriots players high in fantasy. Kind of like you said, if they fall to me, and I'm a Patriots fan. I'm a diehard Patriots fan. Right. I don't draft Patriots players unless it's like, all right, that value is way too good to pass up. It's just because in fantasy wise, the Patriots they don't give a shit about your fantasy team. That's proven fact. Bill Belichick does not care about anyone's fantasy team. They will go to someone different every week. They'll do a different thing every week.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some other fantasy news that hit our stories. That's right. There's some more news out of Mile High Stadium. That's right. Teddy Bridgewater has gotten the start in Denver. Very much a lot of fantasy implications for this. Teddy Bridgewater getting the nod over incumbent quarterback Drew Lock. Guys, I wouldn't be too surprised to say that I thought this was going to happen, considering Locke's run and Elway's way of investing into a quarterback and starting him. But I'm actually a little surprised. Is this the right call, Justin? Would you have started Bridgewater over Locke?
No, I wouldn't have personally if I'm, the GM or the coach or really whoever's, got their finger on the trigger. Personally, I would give it to the guy that's been there, that knows the playbook a little bit more. I still feel like the locker room would have rallied around him a little bit more. Now, if you're asking me in terms of, keeping things safe, steady Teddy, that's the way to go. And apparently that's the approach that Fangio wants to take here. I do think there is more risk going with a Drew Lock, but at the same time, I think that we were all looking for, a gunslinger at the helm and, not a check down steady Teddy. So I feel like that should dial back some of the value for some of the pieces in this offense. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. We saw Drew Lock play pretty well in preseason, but Teddy being more conservative, being safer with his throws. If you look at Drew Lock, I think he's been around like 18 or 17% or so bad throw percentage since coming into the league. So where he can make some big plays downfield, he can bust out the highlight tape. He still isn't as conservative and as safe as the play of Teddy Bridgewater. But if you're asking me, I would have chosen Drew Lock. Let the guy that's been here, essentially let him be the guy until he's not, and then let Teddy just come in and take over. I think that would have been simple, but a little bit of a different approach here from the Broncos.
Before I give an introduction, after that wonderful analysis by Justin at To The Hizzy, I definitely want to say welcome to @CozyCo. Steph Cosenza has joined the fray of ITL. Welcome, Steph, to ITL. It's been a little while.
My voice is still gone. It's coming
wow.
back.
She is
I know. I have not, but that was awesome. Hello.
She just said the exact same thing I said to
I know, it's the exact same introduction, but I'm completely about it. Steph has joined us. Steph, you're right in the discussion of Denver Broncos territory. Before we go back to that discussion, just a quick shout out. Big Hero Kevin, the man, the myth, the legend, who led On the Field's first podcast this past Sunday, says, I like that, Justin. So you got that fantasy football approval from him. So that's a good sign right there. But let's talk about Bridgewater. Steve, I left you there with kind of that topic, right? Do you like Bridgewater over Locke?
I personally kind of agree with what Justin said. I tend to like the guy who's already been there, and I tend to like to go to the younger guy. Anyway, instead of we already know what Teddy Bridgewater is really, and there is still time for Drew Lock to be molded into a legitimate NFL quarterback. The only thing that I'll say to that is that we're just a bunch of guys hanging out, shooting the shit online. We don't know what's going on in the Denver Broncos locker room. For all we know, Drew Lock has lost the confidence of the guys there, and maybe the guys feel more confident in Teddy Bridgewater. That's all I'll say is we don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's very true. Or if maybe he has lingering injury problems, or he doesn't feel 100% also. He just can't seem to stay healthy. And I say that without knowing his complete game, so I'm sorry, that's kind of an ill-advised method. But, he has been out, right? I've owned him in fantasy as a backup, or at least Noah Fant, so I have to know when he's playing and the other's playing. So, Noah Fant's one person who I would now look at to having fantasy stock rise with Bridgewater joining the fray, personally. Steph Cosenza, you joined us here. I know I'm going to throw you into it. You can just give me the, hey, pass, or you can say, I want to talk about this topic, but do you want to comment on Teddy Bridgewater?
I do not.
She does not. All right, so let's move on. I'm going to put a bold statement out there for you guys. You guys debate it out all you want. Fields should be starting week 1 for the Bears. Love it or shove it is how we're going to do it here. Steve, start us off with this one. You love it?
Well, I do and I don't, because what I always say to that is, if you're going to put the rookie in day one, you're going to ride the rookie through and through till the end. Because once you bench him, you're going to fuck his confidence up. And you don't want to do that to a rookie quarterback. So that's on the coach. That's on the coach's mind. If they want to make the decision that they're going to ride with the rookie,
Right.
through and through, because not all games are going to be pretty.
I mean, I actually think, and before I go to you, Justin, I actually think Justin Fields is actually a great quarterback. Like, I think he could have the potential of being a top.
I think he's
a
got
top
loads of
QB2.
potential, but I think he went where quarterbacks go to die.
Maybe, right? Maybe.
Steve Reisner, if you don't stop with
Oh, I
that.
will not
My
stop
God.
saying
You
that.
know why? My
I
top
knew
10 pick
I
wide
knew you were going to
receiver, I
respond
want
to
you to
that, Steph
ask.
Senza.
Yeah, I honestly think Fields is going to be fantastic for Chicago. I think this is going to break the mold, right? I mean, obviously he's no Mitchell Trubisky, but he's definitely. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I think he's going to be actually a great find. I think he's going to break that Ohio State mold. Justin, your feelings on Fields and the Dalton situation?
Normally, I have Soldier Field as my background here because I'm a Bears fan. So this one definitely hits close to home. I love it.
Hold on then. Let me make this official then. Here we go.
Oh, okay. I would love it. I would love it if he started week 1. Justin Fields adds another level to the offense with his legs that Andy Dalton has never done in his entire career. If you're going to reprise, Andy Dalton from 2014, 2015, those seasons weren't really anything to write home about. Still upwards of 15, 20 plus interceptions, on his best years, right? Fields just gives this offense another look with his legs, being able to extend plays, run play action a little bit more efficiently, with provide some more speed to the offense. But I'm not Matt Nagy. Nagy is just refusing to back down from this Andy Dalton talk. Andy is still our guy. Andy is still our guy. He can say it all he wants. I don't believe it. I don't believe there's any benefit whatsoever to tell the Rams right now, or even weeks ago, because this has been a topic pretty much all offseason since they brought him on. Since we moved up to take him, there's really no benefit to say, oh yeah, the kid's starting week 1. My big take is if he's not starting week 1, he is in there halftime at week 1. We're playing the Rams on the road, Monday Night Football. It's something Matt Nagy's done before. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. If he's not starting, it'll be halftime week 1, if not week 2.
That's very interesting. So you predict the Bears to be down by a lot then to the Rams going into that halftime?
I'm actually not saying it's a lot. I'm going to say it's the Bears do their typical thing where they, play good defense, specifically in their own red zone. They get some good stops, and they're maybe down by 10 or 13. It's not completely out of it just yet, but they want the kid to get in there, because, the chains just ain't moving.
And then
Andy
Fields
Dalton
comes in as a savior and wins the game with a clutch field goal that he kicks himself. I mean, am I right in the script, or is this just what's going to happen?
I mean, the kid has a ton of confidence. You were saying if you're going to put him in, leave him in because it could affect his confidence. I honestly don't think it will. Justin Fields is a chiseled athlete inside and out. He's been in big pressure situations. He has trounced Trevor Lawrence. He's won a national championship. So the kid can do it all, whether he's throwing, whether he's running. The big knock on him is he can't make beyond his first read. Right. I saw in a preseason game where he should have hit a running back literally screaming down the sidelines, wide open. Should have made his second read, didn't do it. He hit the guy on a contested ball in his hands, one-on-one with the guy. You can knock him all you want on the film, but at the end of the day, the kid's really something special.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I completely with you. I know somebody has some bear blood running through her. That might be Steph over there. So, Steph, what do you feel? Fields starting week 1?
I think that I'm just trying to be positive and hope and will all of the good towards this team, because I feel like at the end of the day, there's always just something coming up just short that is so detrimental to the entire team. And I feel Allen Robinson, talking about receivers and stuff like that. I mean, he's gone through so much with this team, and somehow he's making it look effortless. That's a really important part of his team, I think, in my opinion. But I mean, as far as this season goes, I know it's a rocky start. I just hope that if this is what the deal is, if he does start, that it's the right decision.
Yeah, I would ride Fields the entire season. I don't know why Dalton's even being debated. But let's go to another quarterback controversy before we dive into wide receivers and a big Shefty shout-out. But that's right. It is Trey Lance and Jimmy G. Guys, a question is out there, and it's 50-50 across the board. The challenge has been presented to the Lapsters. The challenge is across fantasy football. Some believe in Trey Lance. Some believe in Jimmy G. I'm just going to get a consensus pick, just a 30-second why. All right, so Justin, tell us, who's your pick and why? 30 seconds.
Jimmy G, this is the best offense that he's had since coming on with the team. Last year, he was starting off with what you would consider wide receivers 7s and 8s in fantasy. This year, he's got healthy Debo, healthy Ayuk, healthy George Kittle. Trey Lance, he's amazing. He's great. He's got a ton of talent, but it's all very raw. Jimmy knows his system just a little bit more. I think Shanahan goes with the guy that he knows.
Beautiful, beautiful. Steve, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's Jimmy G. What's Trey Lance? Not even going to be 20. Is Trey Lance even going to be old enough to drink at the start of the season?
He's going to need it if he is.
I mean, he's a kid. Kid was 20 years old. I mean, you can't start a kid that you can't throw a kid into the fire that young as a starting quarterback. Not in a place like San Francisco of all fucking places. Not when there's already you were already in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago with Garoppolo. I think you ride with Jimmy G. He is not going to New England.
Steph, what's your pick?
I have absolutely no clue. None whatsoever.
She takes no stance on this, pleads a fifth, says they trade for Deshaun. I really like that take, Steph.
Thank you.
I'm going to go with Garoppolo. You stay with the incumbent because he knows the system and he took you to a Super Bowl. Unless he just is terrible, I think this is more of the let him play 4 weeks, bench him if they're 1-3, bench him if they're 0-4, and put in Trey Lance. Almost the Herbert effect, right? You fake that injury and then you let the young gun play. But all right, guys, let's do a shout out. We had extremely huge news. That's right. Denzel Perryman was traded to the Raiders. Shout out to Adam Schefter. It's a slow day. 5 tweets. 5 tweets. I'm looking at it.
At least 5 that I saw. It's, you know how Schefter is. As soon as this dude gets any information, he has to tweet it. Like him and Rappaport have a little competition for an hour where they see who can tweet it out in as many different times, word it as differently as possible.
The true
same information.
The true competition, which is not part of right here, 5 tweets unfollowed, clogging in the feed. Sam, shut up. It's good to hear you, bud. That's so funny. I do miss Sam too. In all honesty, though, how about, and we're not talking about it, but I just want to say, how about that feud between Woj and Shams this offseason? The little back and forth, who's covering the right announcement. That was crazy. There was 3 weeks we were really dishing it on each other. I wish Shefty had somebody comparable. I get Rappaport's there, but he's not him. But Shams.
Well, all Rappaport, all either of them do is just retweet other guys.
Rappaport has been pretty proclaimed as a copy and paste of Adam Schefter.
Right.
I've seen a couple
Rappaport just copy and paste Schefter and Pelissero, and he's I can confirm. Don't worry, guys. I'm here.
I'm looking at Rappaport's feed right now, and it says Denzel Perryman to the Raiders with a dash, Shefty dash Rappaport. So, I mean, he's taking credit for it at the end of the day. It's like the Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott situation.
Ernest, I have to say, you failed to bring up
the
most important quarterback competition going on.
I asked you if there was anything else, Steve, and you told me the Patriots were irrelevant. I didn't want to put that out there.
What? Oh, because Cam's at home?
Yes, because Mac Jones is being believed to be the starter. That's not real news yet, Steve. That's not real news yet.
I don't know. Mac Jones put on a show today in Foxborough against the Giants starting D all the way, taking all the reps. He completed 19 straight passes, so.
Whoa, the Giants. The football Giants.
No kidding. My God,
I will say, for Steve, that is
we have a bad
right? You guys can't
Giants
beat the Giants.
All right.
You're right. I get it. That's like you guys playing
I told
Tom
you,
Brady.
I blame the New York Giants for my descent into alcoholism at a young age.
Oh,
God. You want me to feature you, Steve, so you can tell everybody? Here you go. I got violin music. Give me a second.
You're not featuring me that story.
All right, let's get to our featured entertainment. Yeah, here's the quote right here. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Oh, my God,
Sam, you're absolutely right, Sam. Matter of fact, you're online producing this from hundreds and thousands of miles away, so I appreciate you.
He's our regulator, right?
Yes, our moderator. All right, so our top 10 fantasy wide receiver list. I have 3 top 10 lists. I'm going to let Steph compare hers on the fly. I want to dissect each list individually instead of doing 10s across and 9s across. I think it'd be better to get the mindset of why. Haley, another shout out. We've had multiple streamers on here, so shout out to Sam, Shout out to Haley. Angela said we're best friends. I'm going to take her on that. Tammy and Fun. So I appreciate
Wait,
all y'all.
you and Angela best friends? I thought me and Angela were best friends.
I think she was calling all of us best friends. I was including Steph.
Actually, yeah, no, sorry. Me and Steph are best friends, but I thought like Angela was like my next best friend.
Wow.
Next.
Wow.
Jeez,
can
oh,
all
fuck. Man, I gotta stop. I gotta stop talking. This is going horribly wrong. I gotta stop. Delete all of this. I didn't say anything. Let's start over.
All right, so we're gonna talk top 10 lists, and let me go ahead and zoom in so I get one list at a time. Can we all see my screen? All right. Yeah. So we're gonna start off with the guest of honor. That's right, Justin to the Izzy is here with us today. All Justin, talk to us. This is your top 10 list. I kept it in the tier style because I think you had him in tiers, right? So
sort of, yeah. I mean, if you go all the way to the bottom, like 99 and 100 are in their own tier. So I don't know if that's a real thing or not.
Okay, well you got me here. What do you want to do? You want to start off from 10 up, or you want to go 1 down?
I can start with 1 down.
All right, let's do it. Talk to us. You have Stephon Diggs at the top. Talk to us about why.
Yeah, Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins for me are pretty interchangeable at 1 or 2. Neither team really did a lot to upgrade their running game, so they're both their offenses. The Cardinals and the Bills are focused on their vertical offenses with rushing quarterbacks as well. Quarterbacks that love to extend the plays. These are the guys that to me are just athletic freaks. Guys that can go up and get it and beat a guy one-on-one. The sideline, toe touching catches, corner of the end zone. Obviously, they also offer a ton of yards after catch. So this is also should be noted. It's full point PPR format here. I like them ahead of guys like Devonta Adams and Tyree Kill, just because those other offenses have a few more weapons to offer. Right? With the Bills, Diggs is pretty much that 1A guy. Emmanuel Sanders isn't going to draw a ton of more production or touches. Same thing with like Gabriel Davis and Cole Beasley. These are guys that are just catching things underneath, taking the pressure off, and essentially just creating more opportunities for Diggs not to get double teamed. Same thing goes for DeAndre Hopkins. No one is excited about trying to draft AJ Green. I understand that he might be trying to reprise his career, but there's really not that much competition for touches. I don't see James Conner as an upgrade to Kenyon Drake in the running game. So I feel like both of those offenses are going to be relying heavily on their quarterbacks and their A1 receivers. Moving down to like Devonta Adams, he's a guy that may not see as much volume as Diggs and Hopkins, but the touchdown potential is so high in that offense. Aaron Rodgers will absolutely overly feed him, than what's necessary, right? In that offense, I expect both those guys to eat. Before Aaron Rodgers had announced he was coming back, I had Adams at about 8 or 9, so that's kind of the factor or really the level of consistency that Aaron Rodgers is going to bring him. I still think Devonta Adams is kind of quarterback proof, kind of like a guy like Allen Robinson who's put up great production with bad quarterbacks. Adams would have been in a similar situation if Jordan Love was the quarterback. Beyond that, I have Tyree Kill. I see Tyree Kill being number 1 on a lot of people's lists. And I feel like that could be the case every year. It's just that he does have those low moments, not only of his games, but where week to week, whether he, pulls a hamstring, gets taken out for a quarter, a handful of plays, whatever it is. And he just doesn't have that same size and athleticism that Adams, Hopkins, and Diggs can offer. He's still on one of the best offenses in the NFL with one of the best quarterbacks. You look at the guy with the heaviest arm, with the fastest legs. That's a dangerous combination. Don't get me wrong. I could see Tyreek Hill finishing ahead of this spot. But if you're asking me, with all these guys healthy all year long, I would still, if I'm picking, through a draft, like, first wide receiver for my team, I'd still take those names ahead of them. And then Calvin Ridley, this is kind of like my gridlock, my top 5. Like, I absolutely want to get one of these top 5 guys. Stops at Calvin Ridley, who I just absolutely love. Without Julio Jones, we've seen him have elite production in that Falcons lineup. You're not really replacing their Julio Jones production. Obviously, you bring in Kyle Pitts, who a lot of people are high on, expect to have a huge role in this offense. But at the end of the day, Calvin Ridley is just going to be that target monster in this offense. We've seen some of these videos that he's been tearing people up, tearing elite corners up in practice. I know it's preseason and everything, but that hype is definitely making me feel good about my top 5 pick. I'll kind of leave it at there. If you guys want to interject, disagree, proclaim agreement,
Yeah, we're gonna all put in our top 10s because I think we have several players that might be different from each of ours, which I'm really intrigued.
Mhm.
As far as your top 5 list, I'm not as high about Hopkins and Ridley, but we can definitely have a discussion on that in just a second.
Okay.
Definitely agree with the Diggs and Tyree Kill and Adams takes. I think they're in the top 3, 4, 5 every single season until they're out of their prime for me.
Mhm.
Um, Steve, any comments on top 5? You want to knock into AJ Brown?
Um, well, my top five is a little different than mine. No, it is. It is. It's not that either one's wrong. Just people rank them differently. I actually don't have AJ Brown in my top 10
Okay.
just because of
Can't wait to
having
go over
Julio
yours.
Jones and
Because of
Derrick
what?
Henry there.
Because of Jones?
Julio Jones and Derrick
Julio
Henry.
Jones.
I don't have AJ Brown in my top 10 fantasy receivers.
Yep, Julio the Chip Jones. All right, Justin, take us through your bottom 5.
Yeah, so starting off with AJ Brown, really excited about him this year. I had him actually at wide receiver 3 before Devonta Adams news came out, and then Julio Jones being traded. So that Julio Jones being traded moved up Calvin Ridley, and it moved back AJ Brown a few spots. And then obviously with Aaron Rodgers, proclaiming his comeback, we moved Adams up as well. So really high on AJ Brown this year. He's just a super freak. The guy's super athletic, can burn you across the middle, down the sidelines. Really just needs some more volume. And I do understand Julio Jones coming over from Atlanta is going to shadow some of that. He is going to eat into some of that available production. But this guy's just like he's an ace. He's an ace in your up your sleeve. I feel that the value on him right now is actually a little bit more discounted than it was because of Julio Jones coming in. So you can get him a little bit later than what you probably would have. Obviously, with him coming over to the Titans. But I think there's just a lot to be excited about. I know they lost Arthur Smith. He's going to head coach the Falcons. Kind of a weird swap there. Yeah, we get Arthur, but then they trade back Julio to the Titans. Kind of a weird swap. But I still feel like the offense is going to hum. You are going to see a lot of Derrick Henry and a lot of play action setting up a lot of easy targets for Julio and AJ Brown. And I have Julio at number 12. I'm not sure if that's up on the board there. So I feel that both of those guys have the opportunity to finish in the top 10 for wide receivers this year. It all comes down to health at the end of the day. Next up, we got
both of them at wide receiver 1 then, huh?
Well, yeah, if you consider that, yeah, Julio at number 12, yeah, then they both be in wide receiver 1. But for me, like my 11 through like 15 is like super tight. So it's really a lot of coin flips there. At number 7, I have Keenan Allen, who I'm super excited about. Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. Eckler, for reference, I have it like running back 5. I'm super high on him this year. They're getting offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, who is a quarterback's coach in New Orleans. That offense specifically, overly fed their A1 target in Michael Thomas and their running back in Alvin Kamara. I think that's going to transition very smoothly to the Chargers, who have a vertical offense, pass-first offense. Eckler is a good between the tackler running back, kind of underrated in that aspect. But at the same time, this is going to be an offense that passes a lot. Their defense is pretty respectable, especially when they're healthy. So I think they'll be in a couple of more ball games, and they're going to be managing a lot of shorter routes for Keenan Allen. I think he's going to be a big target guy this year. Going to have close to 175 total targets this year. I think he's going to eat a lot. Next up, we've got Allen Robinson. Kind of more of a homer pick here, obviously being a Bears fan. Allen Robinson has been a wide receiver 1 the past 3 seasons, I believe, with just awful quarterbacks. Mitch, Nick Foles. I'm very close to the situation. Yeah, love money Mitch, but he didn't cash all of his checks. That's for sure. Allen Robinson, he's also playing for a contract, whether it's with the Bears or a new team. So it's a very big year for him. Honestly, I could probably have him up at 7 or 6. 6 through 8 for me is kind of interchangeable. It really just depends on where you're at in your draft and if you feel like you can sneak one of those guys in there. At number 9 and 10, I got the young guys in DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson. This is also kind of splitting hairs here. I feel like Terry McLaurin could be in this mix for anywhere from 9 through 11. I do have Scary Terry at number 11. DK in Seattle, I mean, there's a lot to like there. It's really hard to get a read on Pete Carroll and how he's going to facilitate the touches, if it's going to be run heavy, if it's going to be pass heavy. I'm banking on there being more passing this year because when Carroll did slow it down, towards the second half of the season, the offense just wasn't what it was to start the year. I think they need to, keep more shotgun sets, stay out of, essentially just don't, read that you're going to just run the ball every play. Run, pass, run, pass. It's not going to work for them. They have the weapons to go more vertical and be that tough team downfield. I think DK is going to be a big part of that. I've seen him as high as 5 or 6 on some people's rankings. And Justin Jefferson, just a huge yards after catch guy. Him and Thielen will be dueling for targets week in and week out, but I still see Justin Jefferson as the boom piece there. For reference, I have Adam Thielen at, number 21. So about, 11 spots back. But I still feel that Justin Jefferson holds more upside just because he is that screamer down the sidelines, can eat you for a lot of targets, a lot of catches, game in and game out.
Yeah, Steve, I look at this list and it's a great list, and you're right. In a PPR setting, any of these guys can really start to flip around from let's just not go one, from like 5 to 15, right? You really have a steady set at 1 through 4. Nothing really jumps out as being crazy. Allen Robinson to me is probably one of those that can really have that top 4 potential, because Allen Robinson every year is that guy in Chicago. And AJ Brown for me took a bit of a hit with Julio, but I think that they'll be able to manage over there. Anything for y'all that might have stood out for you until we go to my list? No? And Justin, you might be getting a little feedback out of your mic, so I'm going to put you on a quick mute as I go over my list. Just want to give you that heads up. Now, we're going to go over to my list next. And just a shout out to Del Powell. The bowler is in the house. Man, the mid-legend Del Powell, he's over there. He's joining us. Hey, Del, tune in and give us your facts. That's right. We're going over top 10 fantasy wide receivers. I'm going to check that mic again just as we proceed forward. Still getting some feedback. Just want to give you a heads up. We're going to go over to my list, and let me go ahead and get over to that screen and scroll the heck down. So my list very similar, but I was a little bit higher on a couple of these guys, a little bit lower on some of them. So let's dive into the weeds here a little bit and talk about my logic to this. I have 4 tiers in the top 10. I'm not completely sold on each of these guys, but let me kind of jump it down and not be as repetitive. Justin, mic check. Here we go. Still getting a tad bit of feedback. Just want to give you a heads up. All right. So number 1 for me, Devonta Adams. That's right. Had Devonta Adams at 10. When the news came out that Aaron Rodgers was back and he was back and the band is back together for one last run, Devonta Adams was the guy I was going to jump all the way to the top. I've sold and argued on many shows. MTMV Sports knows this argument, but I think Devonta Adams, Aaron Rodgers is the duo to stack and own over anybody else in the NFL. So Devonta Adams at number 1 for me. Tyree Kill number 2, where most have him number 1. I have Adams over him, but Tyree Kill is a big playmaker. You'll see him go 186 and 2 touchdowns, and you wouldn't blink an eye. You think that's a regular day. Tyreek Hill, fastest man in the NFL. If you guys haven't heard, fun fact, Tyreek Hill may end up placing that Super Bowl ring for a gold medal against Usain Bolt, right? I'm excited to see what that race might look like. They're going to put those on the line, so we're going to see what that looks like.
Idiot.
Like very small him. Stephon Diggs at number 3 for me. I do think he's top 3 this year. He's going to get the targets. Leads the league in targets. He also is leading the league in receptions at one point last year. I mean, he's just a PPR machine. And if you're looking at half-point PPR, even a full-point PPR, he's a god for you. So go that way. I do think Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf have that year. I think this is going to be their year, the featured year, that Megatron year. I didn't want to voice DK Metcalf and Megatron last year in the same breath. I'm doing it this year. I think he makes that jump. He overtakes number 1 in Seattle. Tyler Lockett's going to be great, but I think Metcalf is going to be godly. So look out with Seattle in that West. That's my top 4 tier. I want to dissect Allen Robinson before I check in with everybody, but Allen Robinson's on an island by himself. And the reason I have him on an island by himself is because the man is an island by himself. I mean, he literally has carried the Bears passing offense probably the last 3-4 years by him. So I'm going to say 3.5, right? And so you look at Allen Robinson's target receptions, always top 1, 2. You look at his usage, always number 1 at 98.6%. I mean, the man is just always on the field, and even when he's hurt, he plays. So Allen Robinson, to me, has potential to be the number 1 just on volume alone every year. So you can grab him at a steal with down in the low teens, wide receiver teens, or even at wide receiver 20 in some leagues. Do it. There is no quarterback that won't find Allen Robinson. We've seen that already with the quarterback situation in Chicago. So if your league is down on him, take that steal all day long. All right, guys, I'm going to go over to you all. What are your thoughts on my top 5 so far?
I think Allen Robinson could definitely be top four. I don't know who said that. Was that you?
Yeah, that
They
was
said
me.
they could be top four. Yes, I thought that was awesome. I definitely think so. I think it all depends on the quarterback when it comes to like how successful he can be, obviously. But other than that, I thought your list.
I think I think I think
I'm also breaking up a lot, so hopefully I don't break
yeah,
up.
the NFL tends to do that when you start spitting out facts. They try to hack the feed so that you don't spit them out and we don't try to take over. So
Oh
don't
my
worry, it's
god.
not you, it's them. And so we'll move on
It
here
is. It is
into
kind of you though, Steph.
we'll go into my third tier, and this is where
Rude.
this is where Justin's probably saying like, "What the hell kind of show is this?" But we're gonna go into it. Calvin Ridley at number 6, so very similar to where Justin's list was at. We've already been over Ridley. I'm not as high on Ridley just for the reason of Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts to me is going to be featured just like Austin Hooper was. I think Matt Ryan makes the tight end position. I don't think it's the other way around. So I'm very high on Kyle Pitts this year. In my auction league, who watches my show, they knew that and upbid me like crazy. And I appreciate that, y'all. And I got him for like $45. It's ridiculous. So I took Kyle Pitts. Very high on Kyle Pitts. He has potential to finish in the top 3. I'm not going to say number 1 because then everybody's going to be blowing me up. So that's going to be where I'm going to leave that. C.D. Lamb should be on
Oh God.
everybody's radar. No matter what quarterback is in Dallas, they will feature C.D. Lamb this year. He is going to overtake the number 1 spot in Dallas. C.D. Lamb is going to be a breakout star this year, especially if Dak Prescott is healthy. Then I think C.D. Lamb explodes this year. I'm going to call it right here. You're going to hear it for the first time. Justin's going to give a reaction. 1,350 yards, 10 touchdowns. C.D. Lamb is going to go off this year. Just
Oh
watch out.
God.
Watch out, world. He may even rush in a couple just for Steve's sake. I add to everybody, if you didn't catch on the field, Steve Reisner chose the Dallas Cowboys to win the Super Bowl in 2025. All
In
right.
Madden.
All right. So, number 8 for me is Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, scary Terry jumps up because I believe Fitzpatrick can get the ball to him on those deep routes where he hadn't had a quarterback that can really hit him. And even if he catches 5 of those, look at the Tyree Kill effect. I think he just jumps up in a PPR fantasy godlike status. And then we watch Washington kind of roll with Terry. So scary Terry jumps to the top 10. We've already talked about Justin Jefferson just a bit, but Justin Jefferson is a man to watch out for in Minnesota. I'm not as high on the Minnesota passing game as I am about the Minnesota running game. But I'm going to say that because of that running game, Justin Jefferson breaks out a couple. Last but not least for me, and I'm getting some feedback there. Another breakout for me is DeAndre Hopkins down at 10. I don't mean breakout, I mean stunner, right? So why do you have DeAndre Hopkins so low, and why is it misspelled? For a number of reasons, right? He doesn't have a AAA rating anymore. He has a AA rating for me. And on top of that, DeAndre Hopkins is going to end up missing a few games, I believe. He's going to end up he's an anti-vaxxer first off, and as an anti-vaxxer, he may not suit up in the beginning.
So
And
definitely
so
some of the most unbiased
so
analysis I've ever
thank you. I
heard.
really appreciate that. Uh so DeAndre, and I'm getting an alert here now. Oh no, that's on my screen. Okay, so DeAndre Hopkins, or DeAndre Hopkins is now number 10 for me, just for the fact that he may be missing games. And Sam Fashion's making sure everybody knows why it's misspelled. There's a couple of reasons, and I made sure that was up there. Let's go ahead and check with everybody tuning in. On the field says my only concern on Ridley is how he would do with the constant double coverage. That's why I'm high on Kyle Pitts. And Dell gave his, right? Hopkins, Adams, Hill, Carraway. I'm not sure where Carraway is. Jones, Brown, Metcalf, Robinson,
Callaway?
Ridley, Evans. Are we calibrated on who Carraway is? Is that the Saints?
Marquez Callaway?
It might be Callaway. It might end up being Callaway there. He needs a puff pass, not puff keep. That's hilarious. Still getting some feedback.
You're in
Justin.
Texas. You're in Texas, Del. I can't pass it to you.
I'm still getting crickets from you, Steve. So we're just having all sorts of fun. Carraway is a rookie. Apparently, I got to look it up, guys. I have to look it up at this point. If somebody says Carraway, somebody to look out for.
How's
Wide
my sound really
receiver.
quick?
It is still a little fuzzy. Yeah, we're getting some feedback. James Carraway. What? Well, no, that's a college player. Dale, comment what team he is with so we can give everybody a sleeper pick out there. I can't find him. All right, we are going to move down to Steve, the General Reisner. That's right, Steve General Reisner. with your top 10 list. I didn't put him in tiers, Steve. You didn't have him in tiers. So
Yeah.
I don't want to put people to have tiers. Talk to us about your list, 1 to 10.
Well, for number one, Devonta Adams, same reason you have. Him and Aaron Rodgers get that little bromance going on. I think Rodgers pissed off half the Green Bay Packers, at least, with all little charades this year, except for Devonta Adams. So he's got his guy to go to. I think he's going to go to him heavy. Tyree Kill, just because of the big plays playing with the Chiefs offense, that he's going to get his. He's going to get his touchdowns. He's going to get the yards. Some of you watching may remember I wanted to draft Tyree Kill the other night, but somebody drafted him right before me. That person will know who they are. I got DeAndre Hopkins at 3. He's going to get a lot of. He obviously is the number one, the primary receiver in Arizona. He's going to get most of the touches. He's going to get most of the big plays. I will put a caveat. I do not draft DeAndre Hopkins. I will never draft DeAndre Hopkins again. I had him once a couple years ago, and he burned me. And once a player burns me in fantasy football, they're pretty much dead to me. I got Keenan Allen at 4. I've always been a big fan of Keenan Allen. I think he's a great route runner. He's a down the field threat. He's an all around guy. And I think with the loss of Hunter Henry to the Patriots and free agency, I think Keenan Allen is going to get a lot more of those, safety blanket throws from Justin Herbert. And that's the other point with that is that he doesn't need to wait for the medical staff to stab Tyrod Taylor for him to have Justin Herbert throwing on the ball this year. He'll just have Justin Herbert throwing on the ball. I get Stephon Diggs. After that, I know a lot of people have him higher. I have said before, I think the Bills are going to regress this year. And Stephon Diggs has to play Stephon Gilmore twice a year. So that's why he's ranked lower than everyone else. I got Calvin Ridley at 6. Like Justin said, we've seen him play good when Julio Jones is not there. And I saw Kevin from On the Field show say, I got to see how he does with double coverage. I think we've seen him get double covered in games, and we've seen him do fine. I'm excited for Calvin Ridley's year. I think he's going to have a good season. I got Michael Thomas at 7. Obviously, a shitload of questions there going on. We still don't know who's starting. Whatever. I think it's going to end up being Jameis Winston.
It is going to be Jameis, yeah.
Yeah. And I think he's going to I like that a lot. I like that a lot more for Michael Thomas than I do Taysom Hill throwing him the ball. But again, there's the question mark with everything that's going on with the Saints and how Jameis will actually be. Then I got Justin Jefferson. I love this kid. I wanted the Patriots to draft him. I thought he had a fantastic year last year. I think he's only going to get better. I agree with what you said, Ernest. I like Minnesota's running game more than I like their passing game. But, the play action from Dalvin Cook is only going to help Justin Jefferson. I got Allen Robinson at 9. I'll say Allen Robinson would be a lot higher on all of my boards based off talent alone if it wasn't for there always being a question about the goddamn quarterback situation in Chicago. We don't know what they're doing with quarterback right now, so that's why Allen Robinson is that low. I think he would be a lot higher if he had real quarterbacks throwing in the ball at least once. And then I got Scary Terry McLaurin at number 10. I almost put him over Allen Robinson based off we don't know who's starting, but I decided that I think I trust the idea of Justin Fields coming in at some point than I do Ryan Fitzpatrick for an entire season. That's kind of weird. Kind of how I pulled that one out of my ass.
I think for all three of us, once you get past those top 4, it's really kind of a crapshoot for those next 5 or 6, and then we get into really kind of the next tier receiver, right? Whether it's the 1A, 1B situation in Tennessee, or you're looking at CeeDee Lamb Amari situation in Dallas for maybe Justin's list, if I remember correctly. And then, you know, all top 10 lists have consistency towards the top, though, right? Adams, Hill. I wasn't high on DeAndre Hopkins, but Justin was, but just for the situation of the vaccination reason, right? Because he misses 4 or 5 games. He definitely is not wide receiver 1 for me. Not at all. Not with the options that Kyler has there. But Justin, what do you think of Steve's list? Where's kind of your highlight? Like, whoa.
Mike Thomas, what's he still doing up there? You gotta get it. You got to get him out of there. What are you doing? I don't know how many games
should be lower, but
yeah, I have him at like number 30, like right now, 30, 31, somewhere in there.
Yeah, we don't know who's throwing to him either, right? And in that situation, he's not going to have reps. He's coming off the injury. There's a lot to say. Michael Thomas is a low keeper pick, right? Like I know some people in auction leagues get him for cheap, or for people in keeper situations will grab him in the later rounds and say, I'm going to keep him for when he's back on it next year, you know? So definitely a keeper and low auction situation. But guys, those are our top 10 fantasy wide receivers, and we got through it. You know, we always take a ton of time on these, and I'm really glad we kind of paced through it. I'm going to give you guys an option, right? You got 2 players, 2 wide receivers that are not on the radar that have sleeper potential to be wide receiver 1. Justin, tell the people where that is.
Wide receiver 1.
Yeah, if you could pick
How
2.
about I'll pick 2?
Yeah, pick 2.
I'll go man, I'm just trying to think of like some deep shots here. I took some notes for like best value late, bounce back guys. Yeah, I'll throw some love to the Patriots for Steve here. I'll go Jacoby Myers. Could be a target hog for Mac Jones or Cam Newton, whoever's starting there. I have him at wide receiver 52, so it would be a hell of a jump to get into wide receiver 1 territory. But he's a guy that I could see, going off on multiple weeks. Personally, I would like Mac Jones as a starter there. I just think that he gives the offense a more consistent look for, actually passing instead of, trying to run, triple read options with Cam Newton, who, just doesn't have that same lateral speed as he did 4 or 5 years ago. So I'll throw out Jacoby Myers, and I'll go with my homer guy in Darnell Mooney. I think, right now I have him at wide receiver 37, so much higher than Jacoby Myers. Mooney has all the tangibles to be a wide receiver 1. He just needs someone, actually connecting on some passes. He only had 1 drop, I think, on 30 missed catches last year or something like that. So it says a lot to, obviously some of the quarterback discussion we've been having about Chicago here. Just haven't had that consistency. So with Dalton or Fields there, I think that he could also make a big leap. And I'll throw in Marquez Callaway as well, just because he's lighting up the preseason. Not going to have a lot of competition for touches and stuff.
Yeah, I love both of those picks. I had one in there, so I'm going to remove him to give him another sleeper out there. Steve, 2 sleeper wide receivers that may be under the radar but have top wide receiver potential.
Well, I like Kevin and Justin said, I love Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney is a guy that would already have way better stats if it wasn't for the Chicago quarterback situation. We've seen this guy get overthrown when he is absolutely burning guys. So if somehow Chicago can figure out how to hit open receivers, Darnell Mooney should have a much better year. I go with another Patriots pick. I love the Jacoby Myers pick, but I'm going to go Nelson Aguilar. There's not a lot of people are talking about him, and Aguilar's been lighting it up all camp. He's had a connection with both Cam and Mac Jones throughout training camp, so that's one of the things I have there is that it appears that he's got a connection with both guys no matter who starts. They need that guy who's going to stretch the field, and I think that's going to be Nelson Aguilar, and Jacoby Myers is going to do the underneath roads.
Perfect. Yeah, I love both of those as well. I'm going to give a shout out to Del Powell. He figured it out. Callaway was the name. That's his bad. Yep, Marquez Callaway. And when it comes to his breakout pick, Juju Smith-Schuster says he comes back for a breakout year. Says this is going to be his staple. That's not a bad pick. I have 2. I have one that is on the up and coming and one that's going to rekindle his fire. And I'm going to start off with the rekindling. Odell Beckham Jr. comes back into the fray. Top 12 wide receiver. Cleveland has their year. Steve gets his cigarette. He's like, okay, I'm done with this episode. Odell Beckham Jr. is my pick. It's one of those picks you can really get down towards the bottom of those wide receiver pools and still start him. I think he has a breakout. My other one is going to be a guy who I'm really high on. That now I'm saying it. I have 2 drafts this week and are probably going to steal from me, but that's Michael Pittman. If Carson Wentz is really healthy and Jonathan Taylor continues to progress, Pittman will be found in deep routes. He'll be found on slants. He'll have Michael Thomas-esque role in some of the routes that he runs, and Carson Wentz will be able to hit him in that offense that he's familiar with. So Michael Pittman, you can grab him towards a wide receiver 25 to 30 area, and he has wide receiver 1 potential in my opinion. So just from the workload. All right, guys, that is tonight's episode. I am so thankful you guys were able to join us, and I definitely want to give you guys a shout out. So Justin, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at TITTHJB, and you can find our Ticket to the Hizzy Twitter at To The Hizzy on Twitter. Our website's tothehizzy.com. We have 3 weekly shows during the football season: Monday, Thursday, and Sunday. And we also mix in like basketball and hockey as well, some MMA. So jump by our channel. Everyone's more than welcome.
Awesome. And of course, Steve voted the general. Reisner, tell people where they can find you.
Well, it says it right there at the bottom of the screen. It is still the only social media I use. At Reisner_Steven on Twitter. And you can check me out my own show, Sundays with the General. Sundays at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and that is the correct time zone, Ernest.
Anyways, of course, you can find me, Ernest Silva, the host of the Into the Lab podcast. At Into the Lab Pod is where you're watching this, where you can find everything: Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I thank you guys so much for being here. Justin, fantastic to have you on. You have to be on towards the middle of the season so we can start comparing those preseason rankings and the regular rankings and start talking about what happened. But thank you so much for being a part of tonight's episode. Everybody, if you want to support us, share us, like us, retweet, all of that. And you know what? Stay safe this weekend. If you're placing preseason bets, we don't recommend it. But if you are and you can't resist, bet smart. So good luck to all of you. Have a great night.
Unders.
Under.
Oh,